Hey everybody, this episode is sponsored by The Spot Fashion Boutique. Are you tired of buying clothes that look good but don't last? Are the brands that you want to wear way too expensive? The Spot has got you covered. They carry the best brands for the best prices. Doors open every day at 9 a.m. and they're located at the Uptown Liquor Store in Viewfort. Hop over to the Spot Fashion Boutique, and when you get there, tell them we sent you. For more information, call 454-3035. Hello and welcome everybody. Welcome to another episode of Family Reflections. I'm your host, Chadia Mathurin. I'm in here today with an honorable guest. I'm in here with Chadia. Chadia, can you just tell the people a little bit about yourself, get them familiar with who you are?
Okay, definitely. So, as Kelly said, my name is Chadia Mathurin. I am Saint Lucian, to be specific, from the People's Republic of Liberia. And I'm currently resident in Ghana, West Africa. I'm 29, soon to be 30. I own a group of companies dedicated to helping Caribbean and African storytellers tell their stories in their own words, on their own terms, without having to color them with metropolitan. So I think that's a little bit about me and what I do. I wear several other different hats, but for today, this is what I'll say about me.
Okay, all right. Yeah, and I'm really glad to have you on the show today. This has been a conversation I've been wanting to have, and I'm excited about what we're going to cover today. First off, you mentioned that you're St. Lucian living in Ghana. So I know some of the viewers and listeners are immediately like, huh? Wait, you're living in Ghana? Because that is a migration story that we don't hear too often, right? We don't often hear Caribbean people moving to African countries. So can you tell us a little bit about your decision to move to Ghana?
Oh wow! So I'm gonna have to take you way back. I studied international relations at the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine. And looking back, it was a blessing to have received a quality Caribbean education. I think had I studied international relations anywhere else, my perspective and my philosophy would not be what they are today.
Okay.
And studying international relations at St. Augustine, I was exposed to the workings of the international system and our position as what they call less developed countries, third world countries within the international system. And I immediately, because I did being the underdog, I immediately took a dislike to how we were positioned within the international system. And I purposed within myself that at some point during my lifetime, I would do something that would contribute to the ascendance of less developed countries, less developed states within the international system. Um, Fast forward, I graduated in 2013. I came back. Well, I went back. I didn't come back because now I'm in Ghana. I went back to St. Lucia,
Okay.
unemployed. At that point in time, I think St. Lucia had one of the highest youth unemployment rates in the country had seen in quite some time. I think it was at 25%. And I had to find means and ways to take care of myself. I had a student loan, not one as huge as some people, but I had a student loan that I had to pay off. And I decided, okay, you know what, I wanted to become an entrepreneur. So I started to do a whole bunch of research. I would read a lot of magazines like Fast Company, Inc.com, Entrepreneur.com, Forbes, of course. And while I found that these magazines were quite informative, I found that the information therein did not always apply to my unique experience
Right.
in the Caribbean region.
Right.
And
Right
I
there,
had a few.
if I can hop in,
Sorry.
when you say they may not have been speaking to your experience, you're speaking in terms of these entrepreneurs with different resources, working within different economies, right? Is that sort of the
Yes,
vein?
exactly. So,
Mm.
for example, if I read an article that says here are 5 businesses you can start with 100 USD or $100, um, depending on what the business was, it did not it did not factor in stuff like shipping costs, um, clearing of duties, etc. For somebody within my unique context. Even the limitations of our market and how we're defined as a region. But not to digress, I want to move forward. So that was one part.
Right.
And I had a few African friends. So I decided, you know what, here's what I want to do. I want to provide a resource similar to entrepreneur.com, but specifically for African and Caribbean entrepreneurs. So that was the first leg of Wakonte. I started Caribbean entrepreneur and African entrepreneur, where Caribbean and African entrepreneurs would attain some measure of success within the sphere
Okay.
of entrepreneurship while living and working within our specific regions, would write and give advice and share with other young entrepreneurs how to navigate the entrepreneurial space within our context. And from writing these blogs and meeting these African entrepreneurs, I just felt like, okay, you know what? There will become a time where I want to be on the continent. It's one
Yeah.
thing to just speak to these entrepreneurs and hear their side of the story, but I
Mm.
actually want to be there and see what's happening and what's going on.
Okay.
So that was in 2014, 2015, thereabout.
Now, quick question there. At the
Sure.
time, were you finding more? Were you speaking to more African entrepreneurs than Caribbean entrepreneurs? Is that what was going on?
No, I think it would be balanced. We had two blogs, one for Caribbean entrepreneurs, one for African entrepreneurs.
Okay.
It was pretty balanced. The quality of entrepreneurs or the entrepreneurs who I spoke with from Africa, they were certainly more successful than the Caribbean entrepreneurs that I had encountered. But
Mm.
I spoke to an equal amount from both regions.
Okay.
Um, so that was what really got me excited about Africa. I had also written a book in 2013, and it was quite popular in Kenya. So that was another factor. And they kept saying, "Oh, they want me to come over. They want me to come over." So these were two things that really put Africa on my radar. And I want to be on the continent. And I say Africa not as a country, Africa the continent. So
Yeah.
I really wanted to be in Africa. 2019, my grandmother, who was 91, and I would say was very um, instrumental and very valuable, instrumental in my life and very valuable to me. She passed away in May 2019,
Sorry to hear
and
that.
yeah, that was a blow for me because at the time I was in the US when she took ill, and I had left her in December, like 3 months before, and she was quite. I mean, she was vibrant for a 91-year-old woman, to be quite
Right.
honest. I mean, the last pictures I have of her, she's in a balcony making tamarind balls. I mean, she was still hustling. So, um, by March, she had fallen sick and she passed in May. And I almost felt that it was sort of a release for me because of how much she loved her grandchildren. We always wanted to be around. So I never really wanted to go
Too far
too
away.
far away
Yeah.
where, I can't hop on a flight and come back in
Right.
a jeep.
I understand that.
So in 2019, when she died, I had an investment. I'd actually gone to New York for an investment in Wakonte. That fell through. That didn't
Okay.
happen.
Okay.
She died in May. So I really had there was nothing on the horizon. I hadn't grieved properly. I needed to be away. So I started to look for job opportunities in Africa. And I came across a job opportunity with a company, a Ghanaian company called Farmerline.
Okay. What did
And
you say the name
I
was of the company?
Farmerline.
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 Mm-hmm.
And basically, the notoriety came about because they would provide information to farmers in their native languages via voice messaging. So, for example, farmers in rural areas in Ghana who do not speak English, they may speak Twi,
Mm-hmm.
or in northern Ghana, they speak Takpani. Um, Ghana has several different languages.
Right.
Um, who may not necessarily understand English, they didn't necessarily have access to the resources or to the information, market information, weather information that they needed to increase crop yield and therefore increase their profits and their ability to make money. So the company sought to solve that problem, bring that solution by basically sending voice messages to farmers with the information that they need in their native languages. So I took that job because I mean it was right in line with what I wanted to do with Wakonte,
Right.
except it was in the agricultural sphere. So I took that job as the communications officer for that company. Unfortunately, things didn't work out how I wanted it to work out with the company, but it was a good experience for me in that I learned a lot.
Right.
So that's how I got to Ghana. I took that job. I never thought Ghana would be the first African country that I would land in. I actually thought it would have been Kenya.
Okay.
But I took
Is
the job,
I'm guessing it's
and
because
that's
of
how
the
I
book,
landed in
right?
Ghana.
That's why Kenya was.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
have a lot of. If you go to my friends list, or even Nigeria, I have like I've worked with Nigerians before. I have a lot of Kenyan friends on my timeline. So I think either one of these countries would have been the countries that I thought that I would have landed in
Mm-hmm.
uh, first. But it so happened that it was Ghana.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of funny because a lot of people that a lot of Nigerian friends that I've had or Nigerian people that I've met look at me and they say, "You really look Nigerian," right? I think it's because of my high cheekbones. I don't know what it is, but
Yes, you do look Nigerian.
yeah, apparently I look very Nigerian. So who knows?
Yeah. We look like our people from the continent, man. I've gotten that I can pass for a Ghanaian. I've gotten Nigerian. I've gotten Kenyan. I've gotten South African. I've gotten so many things that I look like. I actually need to do my ancestry test to find out exactly where I'm from.
Yeah, I wanted to do one of those, but then somebody discouraged me saying that they're not very accurate. I don't know. Guys, take that with a grain of salt because I haven't really done any research there for me to make a definitive statement
I think
about.
they're accurate.
Yeah, they are accurate.
And yes, I've met people who actually found relatives.
Really?
Yes,
Okay. All
a
right.
treaty Facebook friend of mine literally just found out she had relatives that she didn't know about from
Okay.
one of these tests.
Nah.
Yeah,
Well.
because it's DNA,
Mhm.
but
Well,
they're
do you
stored in
know
a
what company
database.
that friend used?
I will verify for you, and I'll
Okay.
have to get back with you. But I'm looking at Ancestry, the Ancestry test
All right.
from
Yeah.
Ancestry.com.
Yeah, and I don't want to get on my soapbox, but I think the displacement of Black people, uh, especially people who displaced through the transatlantic slave trade, is probably one of the greatest atrocities that human beings have ever done to each other. Not in just in terms of the cruel things that happened. We know, okay, people were beat, people were killed, a lot of terrible stuff, but really just a loss of uh,
Identity.
identity. You don't know who your people are. You don't know where you're
Mhm.
really from. Like,
What your culture really is.
yeah, a lot of friends of mine who are white can trace their roots back to some castle in Ireland, or somewhere in Scotland, but yeah, with us, we're just kind of like, yeah, I have my great grandmother, and that's it, you know. So I don't know. Yeah, but moving on, one thing that you said that struck me is you mentioned that some of the more successful entrepreneurs that you spoke to were from the African continent as opposed to Caribbean entrepreneurs. Uh, do you think that maybe due to smaller economies or access to a smaller population or something along those lines?
I think that's definitely one of the factors. Our market is definitely not as large as Africa.
Yeah.
Africa is huge. I mean, I didn't do the research, but I mean the population is quite a few times ours in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
So Africa is huge, so that's definitely a huge market. And so even with investment, investors are more likely to pick Africa over the Caribbean. That's one. Two, I think, and I'm going to take some licks for saying that. I think that people tend to be innovative the less they have.
Hmm.
Um, I find that Caribbean culture, where we have access to so much more than a lot of young Africans, we are not doing a lot of what young Africans are doing.
Hmm.
Some of them, many of Africa's innovations are coming from young people who were severely disadvantaged. Um, and I am very opposed to giving children everything, just access to just everything, because I mean, I see it. I taught briefly. I taught for 1 year at our alma mater, Wakonte Comprehensive Secondary School, and I taught sixth form.
Yeah, shout out to you for coming.
And I was just like, oh my God, like, what is like, there's no drive. It's like they've just been handed everything, and there's no innovation. There's no, how do I work around this problem? Um, that is definitely a problem. That is a problem for our region. I definitely find that young Africans, they're far more hungry than young Caribbean people, and because they're that hungry, they're doing so much more than we are doing. Like, they're just blowing my mind. I was part of a fellowship by the U.S. Department of State, where it was young thought leaders, young entrepreneurs from across Latin America and the Caribbean, and I was just blown away by what these young people in Latin America, from these unstable economies like Venezuela. Like, my roommate was from Venezuela, and she was creating um, prosthetics for the mouth for people who were disfigured from cancer. And she was 25. She was younger than me. I was like, what am I doing? Listen, I was like, listen, we are, when it comes to innovation in the region, that is definitely something that we need to step up. Even some of the things that I wanted to do with Wakonte, I have been wanting to do these things forever. I cannot get the human resources that I need in the
Hmm.
Caribbean. I had to bring some guys from Nigeria on board to get it done for me.
Yeah.
In terms of building the app and building it affordably. So yeah, definitely the size of our market is one, but I also think that we need to take a very conscious approach to ensuring that our young people coming up, they are far more innovative than they presently are. That is a major issue for me. Um, and it has a lot to do with how we're raising kids, how
Right.
we're
Right.
teaching them in school. I remember one time my little brother, he likes to play around in the kitchen, and he was adding some ingredients. And my mother was like, "Oh no, that wouldn't be good. That wouldn't be good." And I was like, "You know what? Let this boy experiment
Yeah. Let him
with
try.
what he's doing. You never know. That guy may come up with some recipe that's, and let the people." And I think we, in a lot of Caribbean households, that type of experimentation is not facilitated.
Right.
And sometimes it's because our parents grew up with lack, and so that mindset where they want to conserve everything and everything, you don't get to you don't get to go and paint on your walls or be Picasso, whatever. You don't get to do this because you don't do this stuff in a Caribbean war because you'll be penalized. I think these are some of the things that are contributing to our lack of innovation within the region.
Right.
But yeah,
Well,
we'll get there. But I think
I
that's
think
definitely something we need to do.
yeah, I think some of that also is a culture of safety, right?
Mhm.
Folks who are raising their kids and teachers who are teaching kids tend to direct them in the direction of, you know, getting your education, which is good
Mhm.
to do, But also after you get your education, once you get your education, you will then get a good job, and you will
Hey,
have a salary, and you
that's what
will.
it is. This economy is blowing this crap out the water. Excuse my.
No,
I
it's
swear.
true.
Hey,
Yeah.
listen. You know how many people left university unemployed? Like all of what. Listen, I'm grateful for the university experience. I'm not gonna
Right.
lie.
Right.
I'm grateful for it. I'm not gonna tell kids don't go to university. But I'm telling you, if I knew what I knew now, I probably wouldn't have gone to university.
Really.
I'm serious. I would. There's nothing that I learned at university I can't find on YouTube.
True.
There's nothing that I learned at university that I can't find on YouTube. I made some great connections and great friends, and so I believe it was divinely orchestrated.
Right.
But if I knew what I knew now, I would be rolling the way I'm rolling now.
Yeah.
Like I'm kind of stuck in between the place of I want to get a master's, and you know what, I'm not on this whole education hopes vibe thing. Because education is really not sitting in a classroom and
Exactly.
getting papers. I think with the type of experience that I have, like somebody would quicker pick me up and put me within their organization um, than if I had like 2 master's degrees and no
Right.
experience.
Right. Well,
I
and
mean,
that's
yeah,
kind of the new direction in hiring now as well, because I'm hearing that a lot of hiring managers now don't really care as much about your degrees or the regular path of, do you have a bachelor's, do you have a master's degree, um, things along those lines. But instead, people are actually now asking about, okay, what have you done? How do you think?
yes,
How
I'm
exactly can you
certainly
add?
one of those. Yeah. I'm certainly one of those. Like when I'm bringing somebody on my team, I don't really care about the degree. If I can see that you have the ability to do what I need to get done, you're on my
Okay.
team. Like I don't care about your degree. Like that's the last thing on my mind. I don't think it's caught up very well in the Caribbean quite yet. Um, I think that's more of a philosophy and approach that we're seeing the more developed countries are taking. And
Right.
of course, as is our custom, we lag and we'll start to adopt it after they've adopted it and said it's good. But yes, that's definitely a trend that's going on worldwide where we're looking for people with experience and experience that has given them a certain set of soft skills. That's the new terminology, soft skills
Right.
that sitting in a classroom necessarily won't give them.
Right. And so for me, I'm a little more forgiving on the education end, because while for me I don't think, well, I have a level of job security because of my education, right? But in aside from that job security or potential stability, there's also the way I think changed, right? From my time in college,
Mm-hmm.
from my education, the way I think about the world, the way I think about problems changed. My What I knew about myself and my own limitations changed. So in those ways, I think I got a lot from the education I received. But I
Mm-hmm.
agree that the orthodox way of thinking about education as just a silver bullet and just a pathway to a life of happiness and ease and comfort, that's not real. And I think everybody should know that that's not real, so that they can make informed decisions about the steps that they're taking.
Listen, I tell them all the time. I just before we move on, this is a I had a friend who was in our year at this community college. Um, and at the time, we used to line in a group. It was a group of us, and I think he was the only one who wasn't at university at the time out of the group.
Okay.
And he kept saying he wanted to go to university, he wanted to go to university, and he wanted to take a room. I was just coming to the end of my university tenure, and I realized, you know what, this job thing is going to be difficult. And this guy, he had worked for years. He had managed to save. He had managed to acquire land. He was the same age as us.
Yeah.
And I kept saying to him, yo, Frederick, this thing is not all it's cut out to be. You're doing far better than those of us who went to get the degree. And he just wouldn't let up. And eventually he saw what I was saying. He was able to take a lot of leaps, go off and get married. Like, I mean, until last year, I couldn't even possibly think of getting married because I had debts in my mind. I don't want to get married yet. So that's a no for me. But I was like, I couldn't even think of being in a relationship until last year because I had responsibilities and stuff that came from acquiring that education and not getting a job that would help me fulfill these responsibilities after that education. And I was like, listen, there are alternative paths to doing well in life. And he's doing better than a lot of us who have degrees.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
really is.
Yeah. I remember,
Yeah.
so this is a funny story. I remember I right after I left school, I had this internship that I started, and I was excited. I've left school now. I'm in the world of work, and one day I was driving to a location, and I get a call from a friend of mine, and I pick up the phone, and this person is like, "Hey, how much do you make with your career out of college?" So I thought it was a strange question, but I told him. And then the man held his belly laughing. He laughed, he laughed on the phone. And he said, "Yo, stop what you're doing right now and come let me teach you this trade." Because he works as a welder in one of the unions, right? In the US, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
they make good money, right? And the figures
A
that he was
lot.
telling me were way more than what I was making at the time. And so it was just, I think my first real wake up call, like, wait, the whole narrative is a little different from what you were taught growing up.
It's a hoax, man. It's a hoax. It's a hoax.
Now, I want to, so I think some of that comes from well-intentioned parents who were sold this dream, right? Where the path forward and the path to a great life for your child is going to be with this child going through years of tertiary education and having degrees, and then your child will be fine. Which, let me tell you something, may not be completely false. I don't think that's completely false. I just think it's a little misguided. You know what I mean?
I don't think it's completely false. I mean, there are certain things that you have to get degrees for. You want to be a lawyer, you want to be a doctor, you want to be an engineer. There are certain things that you must get certified for.
Yeah.
But like a humanities education, the best humanities education, like get up, go travel, go see different cultures, go the best lit education, pick up a few books, read. I'm not saying like don't, like I said, I'm not telling people I had a great time at university. I have
Yeah.
made lifelong friends. My whole perspective about life, about dating, relationships, everything changed. I grew considerably. I mean, because of university, I'm probably on the path that I am because my mind opened up to a lot of things. But I do think that there are alternative paths. And if somebody cannot afford a university education, I do not think that they should indebt themselves to get a university education so that they can be successful in life. That's basically what my position
Yeah. And I don't think there's many people, especially many people who have been through the university experience, who would disagree with that. I think that may be a more popular opinion than we're led to believe, especially
Yes, for
now
our
in this day and
generation,
age.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. In my father's time, the degree thing would. Definitely.
Yeah.
In my time, not so much.
All right.
Everybody has a degree now. Like, if I
Yeah.
need to get by on my degree, I need a PhD.
All right. So back to the discussion on what you're doing now, right? You've told us a little bit about you moving to Ghana and how you made the decision to move to Ghana.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Tell
Mm-hmm.
us a little bit about, because you mentioned at the top that you own a group of companies, and you
Yeah.
told us the function of those companies. But what exactly does
Mm-hmm.
that look like right now?
Okay, so the group of companies is called Wakonte. Please remember the name. We're about to become very memorable.
Okay. Wakonte.
The group of Wakonte,
Is
yes,
that French? Is that a
in
French
Lucian,
base?
it's in Lucian Creole. or storyteller or buy a quote.
Oh,
Si you can buy a quote, Kenny.
uh,
Wakonte, Wakonte. It can function both as a command, a noun, and a verb.
okay.
So Kenny,
I should be
Kenny buy a
ashamed,
quote.
but
A lot of people are not familiar with it. But yeah,
okay.
if you look at the French word Wakonte,
Hmm.
Racontur, you would see where the Lucian Creole came about in this. Yeah, so I had to do a lot of research to get that name. Actually, um, let me just give props to Vladimir Lucien, one of
Okay.
our up and coming literary heads in Ziolusha. When I was naming the company, I would be like, yo, Vladimir, because he would write poetry with some Creole mixed in, and I was like, what is, how would you say a storyteller in Creole? And he's the one who gave me the word.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
Wakonté, it's becoming quite popular. The Africans like it. They think it sounds African as well. So it's becoming a thing. But anyways, long story short, what we're doing is creating platforms for African and Caribbean storytellers. And when I say storytellers, I don't necessarily mean people who write books, but it could be authors, it could be musicians, it could be podcasters, um, it could be artists, anybody who is part of the fabric of telling the authentic African and Caribbean story. We are creating platforms for them.
Okay.
And so that started obviously telling stories about African and Caribbean entrepreneurs and has evolved into what it is now. In 2018, we launched our publishing house. We launched with 5 books, which I'm very proud of, and the Letters Project.
Okay.
A few authors. I think I was the only author from St. Lucia. The others were from Trinidad and Tobago. My second
Okay.
home. I'm an honorary Trini, by the way.
Honorary tree. All
And
right.
what I loved about the books is that we were able to address political, economic issues uh, within our context. And I love that we use a lot of our local palace, a lot of St. Lucian Creole, a lot of the Trinidadese patois. Um,
Mhm.
we didn't shy away from use of that. We pretty much exposed people to that. So
All
that
right.
was in 2018, and you're gonna be hearing it here first. At the end of March, God willing, we are on track at the end of March, God willing, to launch our digital content distribution platform, where authors, podcasters, musicians, filmmakers, um, TV series or internet series, web series makers can upload to our platform for sale, and our users can have access to this via our proprietary ebook readers, music players, etc. I'm very excited about that. So
So,
that's where we are right now.
I'm excited about that too. So that kind of sounds to me like Caribbean African uh Kindle store or Netflix. Uh,
Yeah, a mix of it all. One million. Hey, don't say these things too loud because I don't want these people to come and try and kill my company before we launch.
or try to
I'm
buy
just
you.
kidding.
What if they try to buy you? What would you do?
Well, I mean, I would like to exit at some point in time. I do have other desires and other dreams and goals to pursue. So I
Hmm.
would like to exit at some point in time, just not yet. But
Okay.
I would love to exit. I put in an amount that I would love to exit at, and if they give me that amount,
All right.
I'm game.
Because I think if they're smart, right, they would realize the vast potential of that market and how much the Caribbean and African voices need to be amplified. And
Man, I think you need. I think you need to cut that out of this. I think you need to cut this out, man. Have you been reading about what Jeff Bezos and these guys do at Amazon? Like how they companies that come on their platform, they start producing the same thing as the companies and cut these guys out. So
yeah.
I think we need to we need to we need to cut this out because I don't want these guys coming for me before I even launch. This is supposed to make me a millionaire. I'm just kidding. Man, let him come.
I really think it might. I really think it might. I'm very excited, and I want to tell you, like, I'm as a fellow Lucian, I'm very proud of you for doing this. Um,
Thanks, bro.
I,
Thanks,
I
thanks, thanks.
I know how Lucians can be, where there are some of our greatest citizens, some of the greatest human products that come from Lucian shores never get the credit that they deserve, right? From your Safa Lewis to your Derek Walcott to
Mhm.
everybody who tends to get their flowers at the end when they're gone, or when the rest of the world catches up, and then we're like, oh, that person is Saint Lucian. So
Yeah.
I want to
I
jump the
definitely, I agree
yeah.
with you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
I want to
you.
come out and say, yo,
Thank
I'm
you.
proud of you. I'm really proud of what you're doing. And
Gracias.
yeah, and that
Yeah,
actually
man.
leads me to my next question. Where's the
Yeah.
motivation for this coming from? Because I think I know a little something about getting, you know, discouraged along the way. It's very difficult to stay consistent, to stay driven, and to keep working towards your goal. So where's that fire coming from? Where's the motivation coming
Um, I definitely think my faith. People will think it's some cliche thing, but it's a real thing for me. Um, I'm, to be quite honest, I've recently come into a space. So just to let me just backpedal a bit.
from?
So
Okay.
I'm Christian.
All right.
I'm a very active Christian. I'm involved in ministry. And growing up, I had very traditional ideas of what ministry would look like.
Okay.
And for me in particular, that would look like speaking, writing, and being a worship leader at church, playing the keys, that sort of thing.
Okay.
And man, I love God. I always want to serve God. I always want to be in ministry. I've only recently come into a space where I'm seeing the potential of what I'm doing to be ministry. Um, and that has given me an added spark. That's one. My faith has really kept me going. I think that in the moments where I want to give up, God always has a way of speaking to me and basically telling me, okay, you're on the right path, you're doing the right thing. That's one. Two, a lot of people have invested in me.
Okay.
Not necessarily money wise. Well, my parents have definitely invested in me money wise. They've invested a lot of money in me. Um, but a lot of people have invested in me, not necessarily money wise, but in terms of the expectations, the words they speak into my life. I don't want to disappoint people. That's two. Um, I don't want to disappoint people. I think that people are due that investment. I wish my grandmother was here to see this. But yeah, I hope she's looking down, whatever your philosophy is. But yeah, I think a lot of people have invested in me, a lot of people believe in me, and I want to be able to allow them to cash out on that belief, on that investment.
Yeah.
That's two. Three, I sincerely believe that what we're doing here is very, very important to both Africa and the Caribbean. It's important to the trajectory of our development. Um, it's important. It's just important. I don't even know how to say how important it is, but I think what I'm doing is important for it. And so that has kept me going. Like right now, I'm excited, but I'm broke. Like all my money goes into that stuff. I swear.
Yeah.
All my money goes into that stuff. And I've been doing this for a while now. And I'm just like, okay, this has to bring forth the rewards,
Yeah.
soon because I've been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this is what I would say. These are the things that me motivated. Yeah.
Okay. And that sounds for any of our viewers or listeners that followed well, the last episode of Family Reflections where we sat down and spoke to Ice Candy about their company and their entrepreneurial journey. Um, a lot of what you said sounds similar as well. They had people pouring into them, sometimes financially, and they also spoke about their faith, keeping them grounded and keeping them driven. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so I want to point out something right away. It's that nobody's an island, right? And I'm guilty of sometimes feeling like, okay, I want to get this thing done. Let me get in and do it, do it myself, right? But what I've learned is that if what does the saying say? The saying says, if you want to go fast, go
You want to go
alone,
far.
and
If
if
you
you
want to
want
go
to go
far.
far, go together. Is that what it says?
Yes.
Right. So I think that's true, and I would really point to any entrepreneur who's watching this, anybody who is working on something, to keep an eye out to uh, allowing other people to help, and also to allow yourself to get feedback from people and new ideas and fresh perspectives about the goal that you're trying to accomplish, right? um, so yeah, that I just really just wanted to plug that in there for sure.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah. So on the Wakonte, Wakonte, am I saying it right? Wakonte,
Yes, Wakonte.
Wakonte.
Oui, moi passe à parler créole.
Moi, ça parlait bien, pas vrai.
Yeah.
So uh, on your company page, though, on your company page, there's the
Yeah.
NSAS
Mm-hmm.
protest image. And I think
Mm-hmm.
because of all that was going on with COVID and everything that was going on with Trump and all this nonsense in the media, um, a lot of people kind of missed what's going on in Africa with the NSAS movement and some of the things that happened there. It hasn't really been big news in the U.S. from my experience, or in the Caribbean from my experience.
Okay, so I don't think it's big news in the Caribbean, but I do think that the African diaspora, both in the US and um, the United Kingdom, and just Europe in general, they definitely did some work in bringing it to the fore. Some of them had their marches and their protests in the UK, in the US, and millions of dollars um, was raised to support the movement in Nigeria.
Right.
So to answer your question as to what this concerns, I don't necessarily want to talk about political happenings in Africa, but I am the voice here today, so I'll do that. I do have some Nigerians on my team. And actually, the photo was taken by one of our founding members,
Really?
who is a photojournalist in Nigeria. Yes.
Okay.
So he does photojournalism for Wakonte, and he was in the thick of things and giving me frequent updates. And so basically, the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, otherwise called SARS, was established in Nigeria to basically crack down on robbery in Nigeria, particularly cyber robbery.
Did you say
If you know anything
cyber
about
robbery?
Nigeria, yeah, if you know anything about Nigeria, you know about Nigerian scams.
Oh yeah, the
You
entire
have
world knows about
at
Nigerian
least
scams.
you may have at least once or twice gotten a letter from a prince or
Oh
somebody
yeah.
who needed you to give them your account to to be able to send some money through yada yada yada.
Yeah,
So
I've heard about
Nigerians
that.
have developed somewhat of a reputation for being some very intelligent, very capable scammers. Um, and if you understand the state of the situation in Nigeria, you will understand that people are doing what they must do to survive.
Okay.
I love Nigerians. They're some of the most resilient people that I've ever met. Some of the most talented, gifted people. There is not an area that if a Nigerian decides that they're going to make an entry or foray into that area, that they do not dominate. It is their Nigerians just have that mindset that I will win at any cost, and I will win. So they have that mindset, and again, it's because of the environment. The environment is making them innovative, both legally and illegally. But the environment is making them innovative.
Okay.
A very tough environment. So the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, I think it was set up sometime in 1995, very early or whatever. But it was set up to crack down on, I don't know what year, so don't quote me on the year. You can take that out. But it was set up to be able to combat this type of scam in Nigeria because they did not like the reputation that Nigeria was gaining abroad and so they wanted to combat it. Having said
Interesting.
that, they went they went overboard with it,
Yeah.
in that they started to what is the terminology? For example, when a police officer sees you in the
Police
US because you
brutality.
are black, no, when they see you because you are black, are
Uh,
they labeling you?
Stereotyping people.
Yeah, they're stereotyping. Yeah, so they
Yeah.
started to stereotype. They started to use stereotypical profiles to target people they believe would be engaging in these types of activities. And I think early on when this started, it was to the benefit of the Nigerian economy. But as Nigeria has developed, as the world has developed, um, and Nigeria is producing some very skilled software engineers, people who are building applications, developers. These people need to have their laptops, they, and so these are the people who are being targeted. If you have a laptop, if your hair is dyed red, there's a certain profile
Right.
that they will target you. And it was beginning to be a problematic thing for young Nigerian software engineers who are basically fueling Nigeria's economy right now, who are in part fueling Nigeria's economy right now. And so enough was enough, and they took to the streets. They were like, yo, we need to end SARS.
So
These people are crazy. Yeah.
yeah, no, I'm just saying. I heard that it was a bit worse than that, even where, they were raping women, they were, beating
Yeah,
people
all
up.
sorts of things you can think about. Raping, beating people up, bribes, having people pay exorbitant bribes to be able to gain access to their, for example, if they picked up your MacBook, you had to pay money to get your MacBook back. Um, beating people, just police brutality. And they were doing it in the name of we want to crack down on this reputation that Nigeria has, but they've just gone overboard with it. And so that was what the protest was really about.
Okay.
And the Nigerian government said they disbanded SARS, but anyways, like I said, I'm not really in a position to talk about whatever it is they're doing
You
over
don't have to
there.
talk about the
Um,
politics too much.
yeah, because politics in Africa is a very complex thing. It's not as simple as people think it is.
And
Um,
why do you think people get it wrong though? Like,
oh Lord, let me tell
what
you,
do you
I don't
think
know.
has some?
It's just it's just too complex. It's too
Okay,
complex.
all right, all right.
I don't wanna. I don't even go into the political talks. Like when I speak to my African friends, not just Nigerians, politics is part and parcel of their daily life.
Right,
And I'm
right.
so sick of it. I'm like, I don't want to. It's just, I'm just, yeah, I don't want to talk about it for real. Like, I'm just here to foster change in a different way.
All right. So
Yeah.
going back to the way that you're fostering change, though, do you think Wakonte will uh, bring the Caribbean and African cultures closer together? You think that people will be able to understand each other better, and do you think that's going to happen?
Definitely. I think I'm, I'm actually in the process of doing an interview with a magazine in Nigeria. And one of the things that we have agreed upon is that Wakote is definitely a platform that is bridging the gap between African and Caribbean stories. Um, and I think when we are exposed to content that is reflective of authentic African culture, um, we will find so many similarities with what we do at home and vice versa. When Africa is exposed to authentic Caribbean culture, they will note so many similarities between what they do
Right.
and what we do and really recognize, yo, we are one people. We really are. So yeah,
Yeah,
definitely,
absolutely.
definitely.
And what I'm looking forward to is also potentially your platform working to kind of diminish some of the ridiculous stereotypes that people have or ridiculous conceptions that they have about Africa. Um, you know, where a lot of Caribbean people kind of look down on some African countries, I believe. Um, a lot of
Yeah,
people,
it's
especially
true.
people who are not informed of what it really is.
And it's not even just informed. I remember when I was coming, my parents are older. So my parents are in the 50s and 60s. My dad is 60, just turned 60. And they were very skeptical about me moving to the continent. And a lot of people were like, "Chadia, kiss out fella." Not
Right,
just my
right.
parents, but just people, Lucian that I would speak to. Like out of all the places, why would you want to? I was like, yo, Africa is booming. This is where it's at right now. And they just couldn't understand. And at the time I was going, I think the year of return was something that was new, where Ghana was basically uh, putting pushing a tourism campaign where they were encouraging people of African heritage to come back home,
Yeah.
in a sense, not to remain, but to visit and see, where it is you have originated from,
All right.
um, to get a grasp of the culture. And so much of what I've seen here is so similar to what I grew up with at home. It's amazing.
Stuff like what exactly? Like what have you seen that is
So
similar?
so I when I was about a month after I came to Ghana. I was traveling from Accra, the city, to another major city, Kumasi, and the way the women tie their hair. My grandmother used to tie hair like that when we go to the country. The way the way they the way they operate is just so reminiscent of a simpler time back home. Um, the way they cook food, their customs and values. You go to, like, if you go to a house in a rural area, you don't live without eating food. I mean, it's just a beautiful thing. It reminded me of, the few times we walked to the country with my grandmother, the fruits, the river. I mean, it reminded me of a simpler time, and just a lot of things they do just remind me of home. Like, I'm just like, okay, this reminds me of home. A lot of their mannerisms, a lot of things they do. Obviously, there are some cultural disparities which may have emerged because obviously we were taken from one place and brought to another place.
All right.
But there are very many similarities between African and Caribbean women, for sure, and the men as well.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I'll just being funny. But what are some similarities with the Caribbean men and African men?
I would say, the pride thing, like this whole
Swag.
masculine pride. Not in this swag. I mean, I find like the African men back it up way more than the Caribbean men. You know,
Okay.
they, at least in my experience, I'm not saying that all African men handle their responsibilities, but the African men that I have met, particularly in Ghana, they take very seriously their duty to family, to protect, to provide. Um, and they're actually quite domestic. I've met quite a few men who are very domestic. They cook, they clean, they do the whole 9 yards in Ghana. So there are a few progressive men. Obviously, there are some men who are very traditional, but there are a few progressive men. A lot of traditional Caribbean men are very similar to traditional African men. They hold very many similar philosophies. Um, yeah, I could see my father when I see some of these men speak, and the way I could see my father in some of these men in a good way. I could see my father. I was like, hey, yeah. I felt like, yeah,
Yeah.
they're a little more crazy with their whole authority thing, but
Okay. Do you want to dig
Caribbean
into
men
that
are a
more?
little more
Like,
progressive.
oh, so Caribbean men are
I mean,
generally more progressive, is what you're saying?
no, 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 not generally. I said they're a little more progressive in that they know that they can't speak to Caribbean women in a particular way because some Caribbean societies have become matriarchal,
Right.
whereas African societies are largely patriarchal. Um, um, African men are a little more progressive in that regard. Not African men, sorry. Caribbean men are a little more progressive in that regard because they know they can't speak to you any type of way. Uh, but even even then, Ghanaian men don't speak to you in any type of way. I find them to be quite um, soft
Uh,
in their mannerisms. Not soft as in like they're soft. They're firm, but they're soft in their mannerisms. Like my speech can be more aggressive than the Ghanaian man's speech.
okay.
My speech would
Interesting.
more mimic that of a Nigerian woman. Nigerian women are definitely more aggressive.
Okay.
Um, yeah, but me, yes, I had to take it back a
Adjust.
bit.
Yeah, dude.
I had to become a little softer in Ghana for sure,
Okay.
because I'm far more aggressive than both their men and women.
All right.
I'm aggressive in Caribbean culture. I'm considered an aggressive woman in Caribbean culture.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Anyway,
what is that?
so
That statement right there is interesting to me because what does that necessarily mean? Being an aggressive woman in
for me,
Caribbean culture.
when I know that when they say it, it's meant in a derogatory way. For me, I don't really care.
Okay.
To get to where I am here, I have to be aggressive. I can't be a passive woman.
Right.
Or else I wouldn't attain half of the things that I want to attain. I certainly try to treat people with dignity,
Mm-hmm.
always, but I am very, very forward in terms of saying what I want to say. I can be abrasive and I can be blunt. Um,
Which I
and
don't think
it's
there's anything wrong with, though. Right.
Oh no, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I mean, people have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with it. I'm quite fine with myself. From very early on, I learned to love myself unconditionally. And let me
Right.
quote India because I am a kid. So, um, I don't have a problem with myself. I know who I am, and the people who had the opportunity to come into my space, they understand who I am. Um, but yeah, I'm not considered a soft woman. But Ghana has definitely made me a little softer. Definitely,
Okay.
Ghana has made me softer for sure.
That's interesting that
Yeah,
that's not necessarily something that I was expecting that Ghanaian men are more softer spoken or just take a generally softer approach. Um,
yeah, they're not aggressive men, and they've made me. And just not Ghanaian men. Like one of my colleagues was from Benin, another West
okay.
African country. Um, I would cook for him all the time because we would live in company quarters together.
Hmm.
And one time we were at a work meeting, and we were appreciating various colleagues, and he opened his mouth and said, "We really want to call it because I cook for him and make sure he's full and whatever." And everybody in the office was like, "What?" And I was like, I was like, yeah, I mean, as long as you respect me, I don't have a problem doing certain things. Like, I don't have a problem doing certain things. I think people think that I'm ultra feminist. But Ghanaian men, like, yo, listen, they've given me a very good impression. Like, I tell people I do not know when the last time, I don't know the last time I opened a door. I don't open doors in Ghana. I really, if there's a man in my vicinity, I don't open a door. I don't take up
Right.
my trash. I don't do anything. If I'm going out with my male friends, I don't pay an Uber. Like I don't like I mean I go out paying. Like they handle stuff in a way that makes you take a step back.
Okay.
Whereas when I'm in Caribbean society, I'm most likely handling things,
Yeah,
especially
you're
even more
opening
so.
all your doors.
Yeah, which I never had a problem with.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I had to, like I said, I had to step back. I don't have a problem with opening my own doors till today. But I
Yeah.
mean, these brothers, they worked on a sister like I literally just walk through doors and expect them to open now. Like
Wow. No,
so
I
when I
think yeah, I think that's very interesting. I didn't know that. Yeah.
very chivalrous men, very, very, very chivalrous men.
I have a question for you, and this just came to
Sure.
mind. Uh, so right now, I think that I recently heard this statistic that many women, especially in Saint Lucia, have I think the majority of higher earning or management positions.
Yes.
Um,
We're one of three countries in the world: Jamaica, Colombia, and I think Seychelles is a good three.
all right. So
Mhm.
I'm wondering why that is. Is this because Saint Lucia is matriarchal? now, or?
Yes, yes, St. Lucia is very matriarchal. And I'm speaking not just within the African context. In Trinidad, men are also, let me not say, I don't want to say full masculine or whatever, but men handle their stuff in Trinidad. I'm not even gonna lie. Like these brothers, like I'm like, not all of them, but the brothers that I met were solid. Like, I need to take care of my household. I need to do, and I don't see a lot of that coming from young St. Lucian men. Even men who
Really?
are in the church, yeah, they. Kenny, don't even get me started. This is a topic that I don't want to get started with. I don't want to get started on this topic.
Okay.
Women are definitely put in a position where if they don't handle business in St. Lucia, business is not going to be handled.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And yeah, I felt that. I mean, when I talk to the guys, and that's why they're going to say I'm aggressive. When I talk to the guys back home, I'm I'm just handling my business. I'm handling my business, and these guys, they'll say, you know what? Oh, I don't want to submit. I mean, I can't submit to whatever it is you're doing. You're going to take me down. I can't submit to it. Your
Right.
work ethic is not there. You have no vision. I mean, I'm not saying all St. Lucian men are like that, but
Right. Of
St.
course.
Lucian women are definitely more of go-getters than the men. I'm sorry.
So I kind of want to. I'm trying to figure out why that is. Like, what is the thing? Um, like growing up, I'm not sure I can really push against that or really confirm that it's true. Because I've been away for a while, and I don't think I have a very good sense enough to kind of say anything there. But I want to know what would cause that, right? Assuming that it is completely true, what causes that to be? How do you create that? Was it always like this? You know?
I mean, if I look back at my grandmothers, it was always like that. My grandmothers were pretty much the people running stuff,
Right.
both from my mother and my father's side. I mean, they are husbands, but yeah, I
The
mean, you
rock of
grew
the
up like,
family was the woman. Right?
yeah, I don't know, they and then Saint women also, when they're raising men, they coddle men. I don't know. It's something that we need to work on as a society. I mean, I've had to shake my little brothers up a few times,
Really? Did
like
it work?
shake them up. Um, so my last little brother, yeah, I think when I'm seeing them, they're shipping up. Your popola, but but they're but they're coming into their own. They're definitely coming into their own as young men. Um, because I don't want to, and I always tell my mother and my cousins. So I have a cousin who likes my little brother a lot, and she would come home and she would call him, and I'm like, listen, this type of thing that you're facilitating here, you wouldn't want it in a man. So please, 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 please don't do it. No, no, I mean, I'm not saying that we're not supposed to be soft men. Don't get me wrong. I
Yeah.
believe that men need emotional outlets. I'm a proponent of all of that. But I believe that we need to do better in terms of raising men to understand their roles and responsibilities in society. Um, and but let me not go into that because I say about
No,
like
folks.
I may
So
pop GP at
I'll tell y'all what. I want to hear what y'all have to say about that. Okay, so in the comments,
maybe
wherever you're
maybe
watching
we'll have
this,
to have a panel after that, Kelly, where we bring in Lucian men and women
we
together to
might
have
have
that
to, we might have to
conversation.
do this.
Yeah.
So let us know in the comments what you think of what we just discussed. I'm right here on the fence, kind of seeing where I land on this. But yeah, let us know in the comments what you think about what we just discussed here on Saint Lucia being a matriarchal. Is it matriarchal or matriarchal?
Yeah, matriarchal
Matriarchal.
society.
Yeah,
Yeah.
matriarchal
But
society.
Kelly, let me to help you just hop off the little fence. How many sturdy young men do you know? Solid, sturdy young men within your age bracket.
Sturdy young man. That's hilarious right there. Uh, okay. Okay. So here's the thing, right? I heard the stories of like my grandfathers and people who grew up in certain ways and some of the actions that people took. And this one who had a child with that person and three children
Mhm.
with that person and all
Mhm.
this mess, right? And
Mhm.
I think nowadays, a lot of that is tempered down. I see a lot of guys, like, I don't have a single friend, a single guy friend that I know who is not like active in the life of their child if they have a child.
Mhm.
I see a lot of issues with like people actually maintaining a family unit and like people staying with the mother of their children and stuff like that,
Mhm.
and infidelity and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
as for nurturing and providing, I think I see more of
Yeah,
that than
yeah,
there
so
was
that's
before.
parenting. But to me, part of being steady as well is that you honor the unit, you honor
Yeah,
you work towards building the unit, building generational wealth. And I mean, I don't see it like I don't meet a lot of young Lucian men with that mindset. I'm very sorry.
yeah.
They are few and far in between. I do see that the young ones coming up, they are definitely more forward thinking than my generation of men. But using my generation, well, yeah, Jesus, move on. Let's move on.
All right. So this is the last thing I want to cover. Of course, we had other things I want to talk about, but the time is just blazing past us. Uh, I want to. You said, I
We
think you
can have
mentioned.
the conversation and you can edit whatever you want, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Yeah.
so I remember at the top of the episode, I think before we got on, you mentioned that you saw the episode with me and Krishna.
I briefly viewed it, yes.
Okay.
The part about colorism and yeah.
All right. So I just kind of want to hear some of your thoughts on that, if you have any
Oh
thoughts to
Lord.
share on why it seems that, and of course, this is a conversation that goes both ways to some sort,
Mm-hmm.
where uh, in some cases people prefer darker skinned folks, or people might sometimes prefer lighter skinned folks. However the spectrum is interpreted on their end, right? Um, so I'm not even going to talk about it in terms of like job discrimination or anything like that. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to keep it a little lighter and kind of in the murky area where Krishna and I were kind of
Dating
split
preferences.
on dating preferences. Like, is it okay for somebody to just prefer to date darker skinned men or lighter skinned women, right?
I mean, everybody has their preferences. Let me
Right.
just go back.
Mhm.
I remember growing up, and my position was that I would never date a dark skinned man.
Really?
And yes,
That's
my
normally the
position was that.
reverse. Yeah.
No, my position was that, and one of the things which really fueled that for me, I was at South Louis Community College one time. Did you go to Up the Mon?
No, I left right after secondary school.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for those of you who went Up the Mon, there's the convent college kiosk, there's the Newport kiosk. And so one day I was sitting under the convent college kiosk, and the college fellas and the ladies were having this debate. And the guys said, there was a poll sort of, if you have to pick between a shaman and a dark skin young lady, who would you pick? And all of the fellas said shabbing, 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 shabbing.
Wow.
Obsessive shabbing. And it was funny when they said shabbing. I said, well, I have no issues there because I want the shabbing fellas too. Oh my god, the dark skin fellas uproar. But oh, how can
Wow.
you say this? I'm like, you just said
All right.
that your preference is shabbing good, but why can't I have that preference as
Right.
a woman? But anyways, long story short, I had this perception but I would never date a dark skinned man. For that reason, that experience that I had at Sasa, because I felt like black men didn't want us, dark skinned women.
Hmm.
And I'm not even dark skinned as some people. I would love to be more dark skinned, but hey, but black men were not feeling dark skinned women. And I also thought too, I do not want my children subject to this type of thing.
Hmm. Interesting.
And I was we used to have this debate in history class. One of my lecturers, Mr. Winston Fulgent, I think he's now Dr. Winston Fulgent is there. I said, no, I'm not dating any black man. And he said, you change your mind, you'll change your mind. But
You change your mind.
yeah, we were having big debates in history classes, and I said, no, I'm not dating any black man. Lo and behold, I went to Trinidad, and them Trini man is Obia, because them flip the script. When I pull up Trinidad, these fellas gassed me up so much. I was like, woo! And Trinidad has some of the most gorgeous dark-skinned men that I've ever come across. One time I almost burst my head in the library door. I saw this gorgeous man and I was, creation testifies. So I was like, oh, and I've been on the Daki train since then.
Wow.
So
So
now,
Trinidad just completely flipped the script.
Listen, Trinidad flipped the script. And I mean, when I tell you gorgeous, my Trini brothers, they are gorgeous black men. Trinidad, and then I'm in West Africa, the heart of God. Oh, Jesus. I'm like, so I'm on the Daki train, like, in terms of what I like physically.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm on the Daki train now, but I'm not opposed to dating outside of my race, especially if my brothers can't behave themselves accordingly.
So it sounds like what you're saying is it's okay to have a preference, right?
Yeah, I think it's okay to have a preference, but I think it's important for people to examine why they have these preferences.
Okay. So find the
I don't think
source
there's
of the
any.
preference.
Yeah, to understand, and to, just within yourself, I think it's important because I gave you my reason as to why
Right.
I didn't want to date a dark-skinned man at some point in my life. I think it's always important to examine, evaluate, and decide why it is you have these preferences and determine if these whys are legitimate enough reasons. And if you're fine with your why at the end of the day, then who am I to tell you anything?
Yeah, so it's interesting because my preference has always been darker skinned women. And I didn't even know it was until until I would say about a year or two ago. I kind of just looked back on my life and I was like, huh, true. And I just realized, wait a minute, there's a pattern, there's a pattern here of, darker skinned women piquing my interest, right? So
For me, it doesn't matter. I mean, I still like a
yeah,
good milk in my coffee every now and then. So for me, it's not a big deal, but I'm
yeah.
definitely more like if I'm consciously looking, a dark-skinned man, a gorgeous dark-skinned man would definitely catch my eye way quicker now. Before it would have been, the shabby fellas. But now, yeah.
Yeah, and I think so. I think where I land on this, where I finally land on this, is that it is okay to have a preference, to have a place that you lean, a direction that you lean in, but not to the point where you completely exclude any possibility and you just completely shut out any, like you're almost disgusted by another person's skin tone. I don't know.
I mean, but I'm not disgusted by it. But right now, I think, should I say this publicly? Right now, I think I'm not really open to dating outside of my race because I want to have brown babies. But at the end of the day, I mean, I don't hate any other race.
Right.
I don't.
Do
Yeah,
you think
but I mean,
so?
do I think what?
No, I'm just thinking, I'm imagining a scenario where you met someone outside of your race who just checked all of the boxes, who was exactly your chemistry, fun, everything that you want, everything that you're looking for. Would you
I
just,
haven't met it yet.
But if
I
you did
haven't
though.
met it yet. I I I don't know because I'm also a very visual person. Like if I'm not feeling you
Okay.
physically, then there's
Okay.
very little room for any chemistry to grow. If I'm
True.
not feeling you
Okay.
physically, I've met a lot of great guys like who, but I mean like physically, if I'm not feeling you, my male friends tell me I behave like a dude in that regard. But if I'm not feeling you physically, it's a no for me. So
All right.
um, but yeah, I mean I'm not like I said I'm not opposed to it
All right.
fully, but my I have a very strong preference towards procreating with a black man and establishing legacy as a black woman. And I think when I began to understand legacy, I think that also has fueled my leaning
All right.
um, in terms of what I want to see happen for our community
All
as
right.
black people.
Future
Yeah,
generations and stuff like that.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Breaking some generational curses, etc. Yeah, definitely.
All right.
Legacy has definitely influenced my preference.
All right. Well, is there anything that you want to tell the viewers or listeners before we head out of the door?
Um, Not really. I think we had a good conversation. What do you think?
I had a good time. I think this was a good conversation. Um, so, viewers and listeners, what I always have to do, if you guys have been watching this, you guys always know that I always need to check when the next episode will be so I can tell y'all. And guess what? The next episode of Family Reflections is going to be on February 1st. So if you're watching this tomorrow, which is the 18th, know that you can check us out on February 1st. Thank you so much for joining us, Chadia. I'm hoping that we can do this again. I'm hoping that I can convince
Definitely,
you,
I'm game.
to join us again. This was a fun conversation. And, I have to tell you that, Wakonte, I'm a fan. I'm
Mm-hmm.
on board. We have to
Definitely.
talk off the line to see how I can work with you to see what I can do to help you
I
advance
mean, we want
even
ribbons of
forward.
blue there. We want to expose ribbons of blue to an African audience,
Rivers
etc.
of
We want.
blue,
We, there,
troubled
there,
waters,
there,
man as
there are a lot
paradise.
of avenues for us to work together. There's great synergy between what you do and what I do.
Right.
So we definitely need to talk.
All right. Yeah, and Caribbean cadence, all of that stuff.
Oh,
Um,
man, definitely. Man,
yeah.
I'm even one of the things that I actually want to do eventually is to start up a record company, Wakonte Records or something of that sort,
Really.
where yeah. Listen. I want to incorporate. I've been doing a lot of listening to like Lucian folk songs, etc.
Mm,
And I've seen African artists do it, where they've been able to incorporate um, the use of folk music into new music,
a new
and they've been
genre,
able to
kind of.
have that fusion vibe, and just paying homage to the past. I definitely want to do that with Lucian music, Lucian folk songs, playing playing around with the vocalizations like Kilido, Kilisi, Mamele.
Yeah.
Putting this type of vocalization in like something modern and having this on
What is in
fire,
Denner
fire,
segment?
fire. Yeah, so yeah. Yo, dinner segment is a big thing over here,
It
yo.
is. It
You know
is.
what? Yeah, in Ghana, it is a big thing.
Yeah.
Imagine I'm traveling in an Uber and I'm hearing what's that song about? Jesus Christ, it's a crazy song.
I
In
don't know about
Ghana.
the Denner segment, but I know it's big. I was in Boston and I was on my phone doing my business and somebody messaged me, Kenny, what is this Denner segment thing from St. Lucia? I was like, yo,
It's a big
what?
thing, and on the radio morning and make your tutu jiggle. Listen,
That was bouncing in
loud.
Ghana.
I was so shocked. Listen, Kenny. I'm like, what? And the radio announcer, then I'm like, does this woman even know what she's saying? Like, I'm like, crazy, crazy. And then a white guy who has a music magazine here, he
Mm.
recently contacted me in Ghana. And he contacted me and he said, hey, I'd love to talk about Denry segment. I'm like, what? How do you know about Denry segment?
And that's
So
the
it is
beauty of it,
definitely a
right?
big
Because music is such a powerful vehicle for culture, right?
yeah. I think we definitely need to bring back our old stuff, have some sampling of Session on the new tracks, have some sampling. we need to move into that sphere where we're appreciative of our old school thing. And the lyrics are crazy. Yo. I've been listening to our folk songs. The lyrics are crazy, Kenny. It's always about somebody mowing somebody, some sexual thing. I mean, the lyrics are crazy, man. This is a
Listen,
part of our culture.
nowadays they say that music has moved in these directions, but that's not completely true. It's kind of always
No, there's
been,
nothing new under the sun.
yeah, that's what it's kind of always
I don't. This is not. This. I mean, everything is. Even the
yeah,
ring games.
yeah. If you look at the ring games, you kind of raise
Juke
an eyebrow like,
fighting,
wait,
juke pala.
yeah, wait,
Yeah,
what are we
there
really
is a
saying here?
brown girl in the ring. Tra-la-la-la.
Yeah, I remember all
Listen,
that
I
stuff.
mean,
Yeah,
nah,
we
nah,
used to
nah.
play some
We're
of those
not.
games at church, and I'm like,
Yeah,
what are
and
we doing?
we were innocent, man. I only realized what these games were saying when we got older.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, we've been seeing this. Yeah. But yeah, Chad, it was an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me. We
Yeah,
will speak again.
absolutely. And as I said, hopefully we do this again, folks. The 1st of February. See you next time. Bye for now. Boom.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.